Sister Alvera Marian had always believed that the mysteries of the afterlife were far beyond what human words could explain. Yet she also knew that God sometimes chose humble souls to reveal great truths. Her life inside the small convent of St. Bridget's Monastery was simple: early prayers, daily work, soft conversations filled with charity, and long hours of silent reflection. But from the day she first opened the diary of Saint Faustina Kowalska, something deep inside her heart awakened. She felt drawn toward the invisible world with a longing she could not put into words. It was as if God had placed within her a gentle mission to understand the suffering of souls in purgatory and to offer her prayers so they could reach the light of heaven. She spent hours reading about Faustina's experiences, absorbing each vision, each voice, each teaching about divine mercy, until she felt as though the saint herself had become a spiritual guide beside her. One chilly November evening, while the wind howled outside the convent walls, Sister Alvera knelt alone in the chapel. A single candle flickered near the tabernacle, casting trembling shadows across the floor. She prayed the Divine Mercy chaplet slowly, letting every word sink into her soul. It was during this quiet prayer that she first sensed a presence, not frightening, not dark, but sorrowful. It felt like someone was near her, someone who longed for help but could not speak. She stayed still, unsure if the feeling was real or simply her imagination. But the longer she prayed, the stronger the presence became. And soon she felt a coldness brush past her face, so gentle it was more like a breath than a touch. Her heart pounded, and she remembered the writings of Saint Faustina.
Some souls make their presence known by a deep inner sorrow or by causing a weight within the heart of the one who prays.
The experience lasted only moments, but Sister Alvera understood instantly. This was her first encounter with the soul still waiting in purgatory. Over the next weeks the presence returned, and Sister Alvera began to recognize subtle signs that matched what Saint Faustina had described. The first sign was a sudden heaviness of spirit that came upon her without reason, a sorrow that did not belong to her. It was never frightening, but always filled with longing. She would feel it most often during prayer or adoration, as though someone beside her was trying to lift their hands toward heaven, but could not. The heaviness would remain until she finished praying the chaplet or the rosary, and then it would fade gently, just like fog dissolving in morning sunlight. She realized that souls in purgatory often reached out to those willing to pray for them, and the sorrow they carried could be sensed by the living if God allowed it. The second sign was even more mysterious, a soft, gentle fragrance that appeared in the chapel at unexpected times. It was not the smell of flowers placed on the altar, nor the incense used during Mass. It was different, subtle, pure, and almost heavenly. It appeared only once every few days, usually after a moment of deep prayer. She remembered that Saint Faustina wrote of souls whose presence could be known through delicate scents or peaceful feelings, a sign that they were close to leaving purgatory but still needed prayer. Sister Alvera learned to understand this scent, not with her nose, but with her spirit. It meant hope. It meant transformation. It meant that her prayers were helping someone take one step closer to eternal joy. The third sign came much later and shook her heart the most. One night, after a long day of service in the convent infirmary, she returned to the chapel to pray for the dying patients she had visited. As she knelt in silence, she saw, just for a heartbeat, a faint shape near the far pew. It was like a figure made of soft light, not fully formed, not frightening, but undeniably real. The figure seemed to bow its head, and then, like mist touched by sunlight, it vanished. Sister Alvera gasped, but instead of fear, her heart flooded with compassion. She knew immediately what this meant. Some souls were allowed to appear briefly when they were near their final purification. The writings of Saint Faustina echoed again in her mind. The souls sometimes come to thank the one who prays for them. Her whole body trembled with awe. She felt honored, humbled, and more determined than ever to pray for the forgotten souls who longed for heaven. Sister Alvera kept all these experiences to herself, sharing them only with her spiritual director, who listened carefully and advised her to remain faithful, humble, and obedient. He reminded her that God revealed such mysteries only to souls who would use them for His glory, never their own. So she pressed on, praying daily for the souls who reached out to her through sorrow, fragrance, and moments of gentle light. She offered mass intentions, sacrifices, and small acts of kindness, believing with all her heart that every prayer helped a soul rise closer to divine peace. Through these signs, Sister Alvera began to understand the depth of God's mercy, a mercy so great that even after death He allowed souls to be purified so they could live forever in His love. And every time she felt that familiar presence again, she whispered softly, "Lord, I trust in You," just as Saint Faustina had taught her. As the months passed, Sister Alvera's experiences deepened, and she found herself living each day with a greater sense of purpose. She no longer viewed prayer as something routine or ordinary. It had become a bridge between the visible world and the invisible suffering souls who longed for release. With each visit of the mysterious presence, her compassion grew stronger, and she felt as though Saint Faustina herself was guiding her in secret ways. She read more of the saint's diary, studied the writings of other mystics, and meditated on the mercy of Christ until her heart burned with a desire to help every soul entrusted to her prayers. Sometimes as she walked through the quiet halls of the convent, she would catch whispers of memories, voices of people she had known long ago, gentle reminders urging her to keep praying for them. One morning, while sweeping the chapel floor, she felt an overwhelming impression that a soul she had been praying for had finally entered heaven. A rush of joy filled her experiences, became a source of inspiration for the younger sisters in the convent. Though she never shared the details, her behavior alone spoke volumes. She served more patiently, forgave more quickly, and prayed more deeply than ever before. The sisters often said that something bright and gentle surrounded her, as though the peace of heaven had begun to seep through her actions. She encouraged others to pray for the dead, reminding them gently that love did not end with the grave. She spoke of divine mercy with a tenderness that moved listeners to tears, and she taught them that praying for souls was not a burden, but a privilege. She told them that Saint Faustina had revealed 3 signs of souls still in purgatory: spiritual heaviness, gentle fragrance, and subtle glimpses of light, and that these signs were not meant to create fear, but compassion. They were reminders that heaven waited for many souls who still needed the prayers of the living. In time, her devotion changed her entire community. The sisters began holding weekly chaplets for the holy souls, lighting candles in remembrance of those who had passed away, and offering small sacrifices for their purification. Even visitors who came to the convent chapel felt a stronger sense of peace, as though the walls themselves had absorbed years' worth of prayer and mercy. And through it all, Sister Alvera continued her silent mission, letting God guide her step by step. She never sought recognition. She wanted only to help souls and to love God with her whole heart. Her faith became a living testimony, and countless people found comfort and inspiration through her gentle example. Years later, long after she had grown old and weak, Sister Alvera experienced one final grace. As she lay in her small room, her breathing slow and fragile, she prayed the Divine Mercy Chaplet one last time. A soft fragrance filled the air, the same heavenly scent she had smelled years ago in the chapel. She knew its meaning. She closed her eyes, and a peaceful smile touched her lips. In her spirit she sensed souls gathering around her, souls she had prayed for, souls she had helped. She felt them thanking her, welcoming her, lifting her heart toward the light. And in that quiet moment, she whispered the words that had guided her entire life. "Jesus, I trust in you." With that prayer, her soul rose gently into the embrace of divine mercy, just as Saint Faustina had once promised for all who lived with faith, compassion, and love for the suffering souls. Sister Alvera Marian's story continued to inspire everyone who heard it. Her life became a reminder that the smallest prayer, the simplest act of kindness, and the quietest moment of mercy could change the eternal destiny of countless souls. And through her faithful example, many learned the truth revealed by Saint Faustina, that even after death, love still reaches, mercy still heals, and heaven still waits for those who are prayed for by hearts filled with compassion. Long after Sister Alvera entered eternal rest, her legacy continued to grow in ways she could never have imagined. Pilgrims from distant towns began visiting St. Bridget's monastery, drawn by the peaceful atmosphere that seemed to surround the chapel, where she had spent countless nights praying for suffering souls. Many who entered the small wooden chapel described a deep stillness, a warmth that wrapped around them like a blanket, and a gentle scent that reminded them of lilies and morning air. Some said that when they knelt near the front pews, they felt a soft heaviness inside their hearts that brought them to tears, yet not a sorrow of despair, but a sorrow that awakened compassion. The sisters recognized those signs immediately, for they echoed everything Sister Alvera had taught them from the writings of Saint Faustina. They believed that souls, still in purification, continued to draw near to the place where so much mercy had been offered. The younger nuns began keeping journals filled with testimonies from visitors who experienced spiritual peace, release from personal burdens, and moments of inner healing after praying there. Many people reported that when they offered prayer for their deceased loved ones, they felt sudden lightness in their chest, as though someone unseen had been lifted closer to heaven. Some described brief flashes of soft radiance near the altar, or a sense of gentle gratitude that touched their spirit. The sisters treated every testimony with humility, reminding everyone that such graces belonged not to them, but to God's endless mercy working through willing hearts. Inspired by Sister Alvera's life, the convent eventually formed a small spiritual mission called the Circle of Mercy, dedicated entirely to praying for souls in purgatory. Each night, before the final bell, the sisters gathered with candles in hand to pray the Divine Mercy chaplet aloud, their voices echoing softly off the stone walls. And though they never sought miracles, they often felt a quiet assurance that heaven listened. The story of Sister Alvera became a living reminder that even one humble soul could change the destiny of many unseen souls. Simply by offering love where it was most needed, visitors left the convent with renewed faith, knowing that God's mercy was not distant or unreachable. It flowed every day, through every prayer, through every compassionate heart willing to help those still journeying toward eternal light. The journey of Sister Alvera Marian leaves behind a truth that every soul can hold close. God never forgets anyone, not in life and not in death. The mercy of Christ is wider than the oceans, deeper than sorrow, stronger than fear, and more patient than time itself. Just as Sister Alvera discovered through her encounters with suffering souls, every prayer, no matter how small or quiet, has the power to reach beyond this world and touch eternity. A single rosary whispered in faith, a chaplet prayed with a trembling voice, a simple candle lit with love, or a moment of silence offered for someone who has passed away can become a bridge of light for a soul still longing for heaven. Her story teaches that holiness is not found in extraordinary visions or dramatic miracles, but in daily faithfulness, humble compassion, and a heart willing to love without being seen. The signs she witnessed, spiritual heaviness, gentle fragrance, and soft glimpses of light were never meant to cause fear. They were invitations to let mercy flow. And this same invitation is extended to all of us today. If we open our hearts, God can use each one of us as instruments of his peace, healing not only the living, but also the souls who await freedom in the next life. May this story awaken in every reader a renewed desire to pray, to trust, and to love more deeply. May it remind us that kindness does not end at the grave, that mercy continues beyond the veil, and that every act of compassion echoes in heaven. And may we, like Sister Alvera, whisper with confidence in every moment of uncertainty, Jesus, I trust in you.